You have tuned your dial into the God and Gainz podcast. Welcome back, welcome back. I appreciate y'all being here with me. So, it's something I want to talk about to the point of take your life seriously, yourself, not so much. So, I was kind of sitting back mindlessly scrolling on Instagram and I came across a post that said, okay, men under 40 ask a question, men over 40 answer it. So I went straight to the comments because I wanted to see what was being asked and what sort of advice or answers were being given. And I came across this one question is so, I don't know, it seems like a common question, but I guess this hasn't been like a real widespread answer to it. I guess that meets the satisfaction of the masses, I suppose. So the question was to the point of a young man asking, advice because he doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. And I forgot his age, but in my recollection, he was maybe in his 20s. So I read some of the responses, and they were good responses, but it made me think, like, how would I respond to this? And so I came from a standpoint of what I would want to hear. And so it made me really think about just like my life being over 40 and what I've seen and understood to this point in my life along my journey. And so when I say take your life seriously, there's some parts of there's like take your life seriously. Like lay a hold of your life and don't just be carried along by any wind or current. Have some values, have some things you're standing on. And I'll touch on that in a second. But as far as not taking yourself so seriously, that is, it kind of boils down to being prideful, being afraid to take chances for fear of embarrassment or failure, not being able to laugh at yourself. It's kind of a real problem I see. And, like I have so many stories in my past where I'm like, okay, I'm glad I was the only one that was a witness to this. And there were so many times where I had an audience to my failure. And, I survived it. And, you learn to do it. I remember being in high school and we had to do a presentation. And I was so fearful of doing that presentation. I asked my teacher, I said, okay, if I don't do this presentation, what would I have to do to still get an A in this class? And the teacher said, you know what? You would have to get an A on everything from here on out. And this is like, we didn't even get to the midway point of the school year. But I took her up on it. That's how fearful I was. I said, you know what? I just got to take that chance. Turned out, I ended up getting the highest grade out of all her classes. So I was successful, but, I was just, I look back on that and it's just a funny thing because that's just how afraid I was of just making a fool of myself with this presentation. But on another note, as far as taking your life seriously, I thought about it, and I got four different points I want to make, places and areas in your life that you should really buckle down, stand on, be stern about in your life. And these are four different relationships you should pay attention to in your life. The first one is your relationship with God. I mean, this comes as understanding who He is, how He is, who He is for you, what sacrifice He made for you. I mean, really understanding His personhood, who He is, you know, just His character, and really digging deep so that you could build an understanding of who He is for you, and start to understand where you can put your trust and how confident you can be in your trust in Him. Because once you get that understood, then you get to understand the promises He made to you. Because a promise is only as good as the one who promised it. You know, so you want to know the promises He made for you. You want to know that you can stand on those promises. You can call them out in your life and hold on to them as truth. And now moving on, because once you start to understand who He is, and now you can move on, you know, to a relationship with yourself. It's so important to understand who you are. And because you already built in this foundation of having an understanding who God is and having your relationship with Him settled, now you can understand who He made you to be. So it's important that you start to understand who you are, and then you understand, you can sit and understand the path that you're on in your life. So you may not know where you need to go. You may not know what your purpose for. Well, to understand that, you go to the one who gave you purpose before you even took your first breath. And that's how you get to understand that. There's a scripture in the Bible that I think on sometimes, and it's in the book of Lamentations, chapter 3, and it's verse 27 through 28. And it says something like, it's good for a man to bear the yoke while he is young. Let him sit alone in silence, for the Lord has laid it on him. And what this says to me is, when you're young, you're carrying things, you're trying to figure it out, but that burden that's been laid on you, if you understand who laid the burden on you, it's the same one who bears the burden for you. And so you get a better understanding of who you are, what you're about, who God created you to be, and why He created you, just sitting alone in the silence with yourself, getting to know you and everything about you. How can you have a relationship with someone that you don't spend time with? The same way you need to spend time with God, the same way you need to spend time with yourself. That's how you build that relationship. And now that moves me to my next one. Money. Now, what I would tell this young man that I referenced before is, whatever path, whatever journey you find yourself on in life, whatever pursuits Don't let money be the main motivator. Money, it could do a lot of things, but it'll never be enough. To me, money has this, I would say, narcissistic personality disorder. Money has a way of convincing you that you're nothing without him. Nobody's gonna love you without him. That's how I see money, and it's so false. But see, you have to have a good understanding that money is just a tool. It's just a tool, and it's feeble. It fades. It loses its value. It's shaky. God is the only one who's unchangeable, the same yesterday, today, and forever. Not money. Money is flaky. We don't know which way the US dollar is going to go these days. It's even losing its strength. And so you have an idea of how you see money and your relationship with money. How do you like to receive it? How do you like to spend it? How do you like to give it? How do you like to invest it? You have to establish these things. And lastly, I would say with your significant other, your spouse. Now, here's the thing. If any of the things that I've listed before, your relationship with God, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with money, if any of these are not well established beforehand, they will bring difficulties in a relationship with your significant other. Because if you don't understand from the beginning, have your beliefs in line, if you don't understand who you are, your identity, what you like, what you don't like, what values you stand on, what are you flexible on, what you're not flexible on. If you don't have all of these things set up, and if you don't have the way you understand money and how you relate with money, and you end up with any of these things misaligned, and you end up with a spouse, it's going to be the toughest time. Because if none of these things you may agree on, you might serve the same God. And that's very good. That's a very good, that's a great foundation. That's going to help you recover. But it's going to be tougher than it has to be if you don't know yourself. Or if you two can't agree on how money works. That's going to be, so many marriages fall apart over money. There's always a giver and a taker. There's always a spender and a saver. Or there's always someone who figures it should be spent and utilized this way, and the other person thinks another way. You can't agree on it, so you end up getting a divorce or something like that. Difficult times for no reason. And so it's up to you, male or female. Get these things in line before you bring in anybody else. And so be okay with laughing at yourself. Be okay with trying new things and failing. Be okay with other people laughing at you. It's okay. I tell you this. It's better to be on the floor than on the wall. It's better to be dancing like nobody's watching than on the wall thinking that everybody's watching. Because 9 times out of 10, people don't care enough anyway. Do your thing and be happy with it. Don't make money the main motivator. Be okay with laughing at yourself. Be okay with failing. You never lose failing. You only lose when you don't try. Pursue different things. Try different things. See what sticks. Understand what you like and what you don't like. And get those 4 things lined up, and you'll be okay. That's God and Gainz. Thanks for stopping by.